U.S. President Donald Trump has announced a complete and total ceasefire between Israel and Iran. And to break that down, we have with us this morning security expert Chester Cabalza joining us on the line. Welcome to Morning Matters.
Good morning, Gretchen. Thank you for having me in your show.
Okay. Chester, President Donald Trump has announced a complete and total ceasefire in all caps, hours after Iran fired ballistic missiles into U.S. bases in Qatar. Quick turn of events that might seem. Do you believe in this announcement? Neither Israel nor Iran has confirmed it.
Well, basically, it's going to be a temporary halt of what is happening in the Iran-Israel war right now. But some were concerning regarding the attacks that we have seen so far in Tel Aviv and also in Tehran. And this time around, Qatar is part of it already. And we are worried that, given that, of course, President Trump has said that this is the end of the 12-day war, I think we will see more of the consequences of their actions. And we just hope that there will be no more suicide bombers or maybe airstrikes or missile attacks of ballistic missiles. And I hope that these three nations will sit down together in the negotiating table and discuss the matter to end this war.
You're right. The question is how long, if it's true, how long will the ceasefire last? And it seems to be, I mean, from the surface, President Trump trying to spin his move into being the one that solved this 12-day war, finding peace through strength. Has that always? Do you think that has always been the goal for the America to enter this war, or is it the spin?
Right.
From your read.
Let's put it into context first. Right. Let's put it into context first. There was a precedent also when the U.S. intervened. Remember that there was also a conflict between Pakistan and India before, and the U.S. intervened early this year. And given the fact that, of course, these are two nuclear-powered nations, referring to India and Pakistan. And Pakistan praised President Trump for intervening, and because of that, the conflict temporarily ended. So maybe that kind of template will be also used in the Iran-Israel war, given that, of course, some other leaders have praised, especially President Netanyahu. He has praised President Trump. I hope that this would end the 12-day war. But of course, we are still not confident enough that it will be the end of this, given that, of course, Iran is also a regional power in the Middle East. And of course, Israel is a powerhouse in the Gulf. So hopefully, Trump is doing its best, and the U.S. will at least achieve what he wanted. Because, of course, we can get the point that the reason why perhaps the U.S. intervened because they don't want an escalation of nuclear war, which I think Iran is using because, of course, he has its ambition for its own nuclear program.
When you say that this might be a template, do you mean to say that a third nuclear power might be needed to de-escalate conflict between two nuclear nations?
Right now, my reading is that, of course, the U.S. has been doing its responsibility right now, even if it's being challenged by other major powers. As a superpower, it is acting as the police of the world by, of course, trying to be a peace broker to the Middle East. But at the same time, we have to remember that there are also other actors, political actors, like multinational, supranational organizations like the European Union, in which they were convincing the three nations to sit down and talk for the negotiating table. And of course, you have ASEAN also as a regional organization. Plus, I think for me, you have an American Pope right now who wanted to have peace and end the war. And I think, given that, of course, President Trump and the U.S. are very proud of the current Pope right now, who is American, I think they would try to listen to his admonition to stop the war. And I think those are the convincing actors right now, the credible actors who could help us on how to end this conflict. Because, of course, we've seen a series of wars in the Middle East. It's not only this year that this has happened. This has been decades-long conflict since 1960s to 1980s and 1990s. We see a series of wars in the Middle East.
Well, of course, the world hopes that it was divine intervention that allowed for the election of an American Pope to go against President Trump. But how would you assess? How would you assess the retaliation done by the Iran on the U.S.? Sinabi ni President Trump na binigyan daw sila ng early notice. Sort of an off-ramp, no? Minsan kasi parang, sa totoo lang, hindi ko alam kung maniniwala ako sa mga sinasabi ni President Trump because he has been known to, bloat the situation many times, diba? So, how would you read? Do you think Iran really gave an early notice to the United States?
I think that's the time when the foreign minister of Iran admonished and said that admonished that this is war ready. You started it, you attacked us, and then you wait for the retaliation. I think that is the warning that was given to the U.S. And that's the reason why Trump was saying that there was an early warning signal coming from Iran. But surprisingly, they attacked Qatar, maybe because the U.S. bases located there. There are many different locations of U.S. bases in the Middle East, one of which is in Qatar, then another one is in Iraq. So I think Qatar would be a soft signal. I think this is just a soft launching of Iran's retaliation. Whatever happens in the because nag-announce na, di ba, na stop muna. I don't know if these two countries, I'm referring to Iran and Israel, will honor this temporary warning coming from the U.S.
Why do you think they chose Qatar? Is it because the other countries are more of a threat militarily? Why Qatar?
I think because of the strong presence of the American American bases there.
They have the largest there.
They know also. Yes, that's the largest, and some were saying that Qatar can retaliate also. But of course, knowing that Qatar embraces peace because it's a prosperous nation, it doesn't want to risk its arms to go to use force, basically. So I think now Qatar just recently opened its airspace again for aviation industry, and I think they are very effective on countering this kind of conflict. But nevertheless, of course, the reason why they have chosen Iran has chosen Qatar maybe because of the largest presence of the U.S. In terms of their bases there.
Well, Qatar has responded. The spokesperson of their Foreign Affairs Department said, "We affirm that Qatar reserves the right to respond directly in a manner equivalent with the nature and scale of this brazen aggression in line with international law." So very, very diplomatic statement from Qatar. But tell us all about the temperament of Iran when it comes to what you've seen and their history in terms of retaliating, because some pundits would say that the exchange of attacks after the U.S. struck the 3 nuclear sites was polite if you compare it to other attacks in the past. So is this, I mean,
Okay.
the way Iran does
Well,
respond, or measured, is it measured according to their own vulnerability at this time?
Mm, yeah, yeah. Of course, if we try to look at the capabilities and military strength of Iran, well, of course, it's considered as a regional hegemon. It's a regional power. But nonetheless, given that, of course, they are trying to build their nuclear power, of course, given that, of course, it's for the civilian, as he would say, for civilian use, but generally, they are not as strong as maybe compared to Israel and to other some Islamic countries. Maybe because they've been ruled by the Ayatollahs,
Mm.
and of course, in terms of their military strength, they have not yet modernized as compared to other strong Islamic countries in the Gulf and in the Middle East. So I think they have the power to project, but as we have seen lately in terms of their performance on how to retaliate and how to contest their power, I think given the point right now, the Ayatollahs are being medyo tagilid, no?
Mm, mm,
And
mm, mm.
lately in Iran right now, because the Ayatollah and some other clerics are hiding, and we've seen also the death of nuclear science, senior nuclear scientists and other senior military officers. We've seen a change of command lately in Tehran. The military is taking over, and we'll see what happens in terms of how they would use diplomacy and how they would use force. And technically, we'll see what happens after this, given that, of course, the U.S. lately has intervened, and also what kind of support they will get from China, because, of course, China is also positioning itself as a global power. There was a time that China broke peace between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and they were quite successful with that. Hopefully, China will encourage Tehran to sit down and talk about the peace process and, of course, negotiation in the Middle East. But so far, right now, as a defense analyst, looking at how Iran is performing in terms of how they are contesting their military strength right now, it shows that the U.S. and Israel are far stronger compared to Iran right now. Mm.
Well, speaking of injuring Iran, it's not just the ceasefire that President Trump has described as complete and total, but he has also said they have completely and totally obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities. But when the Vice President, J.D. Vance, was asked about the location of the uranium they were enriching, hindi niya sinagot ng diretso. Sinabi niya, our goal was to bury the uranium, and I do think the uranium is buried. Kumbaga parang may mga tanong, no, kung talagang nasira nila, hindi ba inurong ito sa ibang lugar? And of course, when you talk about knowledge, it doesn't go away with bombing.
Right,
Your thoughts on that?
No? That's the reason why nung binomba nila yung mga uranium bases nila, and some were saying from the Iranian part, no, that they have transferred the location. But of course, no, there is no piece of evidence that would tell to us that they were successful enough in doing that. That's the reason why, okay, let's allow the ceasefire, and that's good. Hopefully, it would continue and it would end. But I'm worried because given that there is a ceasefire, you'll never know how they would think. No, they would still continue with their uranium project, and more than that, the case that we would like to point out here is that we might see the surge of terrorism again. No, basically because you see the retaliative acts of these nations, and which I think has become part of their culture. Generally, we would see some formations and alliances of armed groups, no, rebel groups and terrorist groups, no. So definitely, if we are not careful enough to watch that, observe, to become more observant, baka dumami yung mga terrorist organizations again.
And at this point, with what you're seeing, as you mentioned, Israel and the United States have proven to be the more powerful party. Do you see this de-escalating now at this point?
Oh well, I just seen in the Twitter, in the X, no, that they're saying that President Netanyahu has almost completely completed his job, but I think his real mission is to purge, to end all these terroristic activities or these terrorist tendencies of nations. No, he really would want to purge all of them, and I hope that he does not overdo it, because generally we're talking about human rights, and definitely we don't want that they will just use force, brute force for that matter. No, and we have to respect international law, the sovereignty of nations, and human rights, basically.
And speaking of saving the world, no, if you take a look at the nuclear non-proliferation treaty, Iran is actually a signatory to that, but Israel is not. Despite, I mean, the certainty that they have their own nuclear weapons, they have remained ambiguous about it, and inspections have gone on for Iran in this program, right?
Yeah, and also there was no confirmation yet from the International Atomic Agency if those uranium enrichment sites were really purged, no, or were really nasira na. So
or obliterated,
hopefully there would be obliterated. Hopefully there will be more monitoring coming from international organizations, particularly with the International Atomic Agency, and I hope that, of course, Iran is a signatory of that international law, that instrument on non-proliferation of atomic bombs or energy.
Which they have threatened to leave, right? Which they have threatened to leave. Could that pose a bigger danger here? Because on the other end, they have said that their nuclear program is for deterrence, it is for peace, but there are fears that they might go the other way, since they're seeing that developing nuclear warheads might be the only way to defend themselves and protect themselves.
Agree. And that's the reason why the U.S. has already intervened, because in their assessment, they thought that it's now there will be maybe a threat for weapon on national interest. Even if that, they ask the United States to bandwagon with them, and we've seen that while they were negotiating, the U.S. started to bomb them red because they thought that they might doing the wrong thing.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and weighing in. It is definitely a pivotal point wherein nations get to go back to the negotiating table. Hopefully, that is what is happening really behind the scenes. We have security expert Chester Cabalza joining us on Morning Matters today.